I'll give some information on Prop 39. It was passed by the voters in 2000. The proposition primarily lowered the threshold for passing school bonds from 2/3 to 55%. But a side provision in that stated that each school district shall make available to each charter school to accommodate all of the charter schools in-district students in conditions reasonably equivalent to those in which the students would be accommodated if they were attending other public schools out of the district. So through litigation, this has turned into a forced co-location where a charter school will be placed inside a public school, even though the word co-location does not appear on the proposition. As a result of court cases, if a school has unused space, it can be given away. I think the biggest controversy is what unused is defined as. So as an example, Shirley Elementary School in Reseda is scheduled to receive a co-location this coming year. And the unused space was considered their computer lab, their robotics room, their art and music room, a one-on-one room, a space for after-school programs, the parent center, and then for special ed, they're the rooms they use for psychological services, adaptive PE, their intervention room, their speech therapy room, and their occupational therapy room. And they're considered unused because a teacher is not assigned to that room on a full-time basis. So usually as part of the process, the request is made for the space. The district identifies what space is available. The schools are then notified that they will be hosting a co-location. Community input is then received through meetings. And then after that, they have to prep the rooms to reconfigure the space. But due to the COVID-19, the community input portion was not held, but they're still proceeding with the rest of it. So the union, the UTLA, has requested a moratorium on all new co-locations in the coming year, and also a moratorium on any request for additional space by charter schools that are already co-located. So this discussion is set on the request for this moratorium. And just as a note, I sent invitations to both UTLA and the Charter School Association to give public comment if they wanted to on the subject. So I guess before we start the discussion, we could hear the public comment for the 3 people that are here. I'll start with Randy.
Okay, perfect. Well, first of all, you did a fabulous job explaining the issue. You took most of what I was going to say. Let me just give you a little background of our school. It's in Reseda. It's centrally located in the valley, which is why they want our location. I've been in the school for over 30 years. We're a family school. We're in a nice little neighborhood school like a lot of your schools in Northridge. In fact, this year in my 3rd grade classroom, I have 4 students whose parents attended the school, 2 of whom were even in my class. So we're just a lovely family neighborhood school. They want our location. They don't want our kinds of kids. They don't want our English language learners. They don't want our low-income kids. They want to attract the kids from Woodland Hills, Encino, Tarzana, which is very easy to drive from in our school. Now, for most of the year, we were trying to fight this, as you said, because they were taking away all the extra rooms that our children had. But now there's a bigger issue. Now we're talking health. Everyone is talking about having less children on campus. How can we add another 100, 200 students to our campus and all the people that go along with them and keep any kind of health? We're trying to limit classes possibly to 10 kids, split sessions. In our school, we have 2 girls' bathrooms and 2 boys' bathrooms for all the children with maybe 5 stalls in each. Adding other children is just going to add such an extra health burden, not counting the faculty bathrooms, the play yards, the cafeteria spaces, the limited library space. So it seems to be a no-brainer. Whatever people feel about charters and co-locations, with what's going on in this pandemic, it should just not be allowed for health reasons alone. And then we could go back to the other issue why we don't want them at our school. Thanks for letting me speak. And you did, as I said again, you explained it so well. We're going to have you come to our meetings.
Okay, thank you.
I'm Debbie Schneider-Solis. I'm an incoming board of director for special ed for UTLA. I'm also on the co-location committee for UTLA Prop 39. And so I wanted to speak on behalf of a moratorium for schools that are co-locating, especially during this time of this pandemic. We don't know what school is going to look like in the future, especially in the near future. And if we ask our students to go back, we know that most likely not all students will be on campus. Charters do not have the same regulations and are not held to the same regulations that we hold our LAUSD schools. When we co-locate, it's like a division of two schools where we have to share. We have a shared use agreement, which is in our contract, and we have to share auditorium space. We need to share the lunch area. We need to share the yard space for PE time, for recess, for lunch. And our biggest concern at this point is how are we going to safely do that in a COVID situation where we're asking for less people to be on campus at a time. We don't know if we're going to go to something like the year-round schedule. We don't know if we're going to have, AM and PM classes. We have no clue what it's going to look like. And so to bring more people on campus is putting a risk to our teachers and to our students of either catching COVID or of, being exposed. It's a health concern at this point. And so we'd really like to call for a moratorium. Thank you.
I'm also a teacher at Shirley Avenue, and I teach early transitional kindergarten. They are 4 going on 5, and it's very difficult, getting them to follow the rules because they're still babies. This is their first experience in school. Citizens of the World is also only bringing in TK, K, and first grade. And they too will be young children having a difficult time following the rules. So if we don't have the moratorium, we will be giving up our much needed space, as we said, but we won't have the space to separate into the other rooms. We also have a very large special needs population. A lot of them have toileting issues. A lot of them have diapers. So our bathrooms are closed for a lot of time. Now, I know with my children, we have to constantly let them go to the bathroom. Some of them were just toilet trained, a year before. And if we don't, then we have accidents and things like that. So this will become a huge issue with the younger students and the kids we have now. I'm very, very concerned of my health. I'm an elderly teacher in good health, but, we can't control, like she said, what another entity will be doing at our school. We need the board members and Austin Butner to declare a moratorium for the safety and the health of our community, our teachers, our staff, and especially our children. Thank you.
I think, Debbie, Randy, and Linda stated it very well, is that this really isn't an issue of whether or not you're pro-charter or pro-public school. This is an issue of the way the system is set up. They count any classrooms that don't have a specific teacher and students assigned to it. And it may very well be that the art classroom next year is going to have to be used to spatially separate students, and we really cannot know what our needs are going to be space-wise next year. And Debbie briefly touched on this, is that these charter schools are privately managed, so it's not that the district can then go and tell them how they should use the space. And so it's a very difficult balance in trying to keep people safe. And it's not fair to Shirley Avenue Elementary School on normal circumstances, and it's certainly not appropriate during this global pandemic.
Okay, I saw Tony's hand first.
Yeah, well, I guess I have a couple of questions. One is more ancillary, so I'll go to the primary one. Does the superintendent have the power to issue a moratorium? Is that through his emergency powers, or in what way could that be facilitated if it were?
Tara, can you field that question?
I don't know the answer to that, but I can, perhaps Debbie could chime in if someone else
Yeah, I
knows.
can chime in. I believe that, so in the case of Shirley, the charter is not currently co-located yet.
Mm-hmm.
So they are in negotiation to whether they're going to co-locate or not. We have not gotten the final list from the district.
Mm-hmm.
They've actually been holding back on it. I don't know why. Normally by, I think it is April 15th, we are given a list. Definitely May 15th, and nothing has come out. But I know that we can call for a moratorium at this point for the safety of our students and teachers. I mean, that's the biggest concern. It's not, you know, as Tara mentioned and Betsy mentioned, it's not whether we're against or for charters, but it's literally the health and safety of, you know, our students. We don't know if they're going to ask like certain grades to go back on certain days and to have to share a campus. It's going to be really, really challenging.
Yeah, I was just asking as far as the legal mechanism for which he would be able to do that. I mean, if it's a proposition and it's in law, are you suggesting that perhaps through emergency powers he would be able to issue the moratorium? Because it sounds like the moratorium would have to be something done through the legislature.
Well, I can answer that. While the proposition specifies that they have to come up with the space, it doesn't specify how. So the implementation is up to the district, and that's what I believe what the moratorium is being asked and how they implement it.
Okay.
Like most things with Prop 39, I think if the district made any kind of move towards this, the CCSA would sue them. That's generally how it's been. But like I said, there's no specification in the proposition that it has to be co-located. And the proposition also states that the district can't be required to go get new space.
Right.
So there's wiggle room in there.
Just as a kind of a FYI for me.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
I just want to chime in that, you know, part of the challenge right now is that there are all these laws in place at the state level surrounding education, and there have been a lot of waivers put in place, and there have also been like suggestions of a lot of waivers that are forthcoming. So I do know that the Office of General Counsel right now is, you know, preparing materials for the board and the superintendent as far as what actions it can take so it's not ultimately sued. But you know, an action from your neighborhood council could potentially help sway stakeholders or the board in a particular direction as they're trying to make the decision as to how they'll ultimately move forward.
Sure. Is the district being funded by, I mean, are they given some sort of monetary compensation for the use of these things?
No.
No, they're
So
not.
they get free space.
No, that's actually, they do receive, I guess, the equivalent of rent for it. Although the district is currently trying to get money back from the charter schools who have asked for space and then didn't use it. So they're supposed to pay a penalty. And I don't have the number off the top of my head, but there's a considerable amount of money that the district is trying to get back that the charter schools are refusing.
I think Glenn has something for you.
Actually, Joe, because he's a co-host, can't raise his hand, but I have to jump off to another meeting, so hopefully this will carry on as Carl and I practiced. But I did want to say for the three folks from Shirley Avenue Elementary, I realize what's on the agenda for tonight's meeting is generic for overall policy, but since you're specifically concerned about Shirley, you may also want to reach out to the Reseda Neighborhood Council because you're located within their boundaries, and specifically in terms of of Shirley School. Their next meeting is going to be virtually on Monday, May 18th, third Monday of May. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Glenn. Okay, so I saw Joe's hand first, and then Betsy's next.
Thank you. I was wondering if anyone knows if any other districts have already rolled this out successfully. And secondly, there's a provision regarding charter schools and co-location, SELPA, which deals with special education services. And it appears that a lot of people complain about the fact that charters are able to exclude students via that methodology. Is that true or not?
Can I speak on that?
Who's speaking?
Debbie?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So I'm a special education teacher, and I actually have gotten students from charters back to my school because the charters weren't able to provide them with the services they need. And as you know, LAUSD is its own SELPA. And so we do provide, we have our own charter division within LAUSD to provide special ed services to the district. And we test students and we provide them like well-agent access, and we actually work with them, but we are still seeing that a lot of students with special needs are returning to their home schools or their public schools that they're assigned to because they're not able to receive the services that they do need.
To specifically answer your question though, Joe, is no, they can't use it as an excuse not to. According to the law, they have to admit any student who applies.
Okay.
Whether that's done is the controversy. I think the UTLA study showed that charter schools were servicing a much lesser percentage of special needs kids than the public schools, particularly when it came to severe special needs.
Thank you. And the reason that's important to me is because it gives an unfair advantage to a charter school when they are in essence able to pick and choose a lower cost basis to do business.
Betsy?
Hi, I have two questions. I'm not sure if you'll know the answer to this one. There must be a health code somewhere in the county that applies to the number of bathrooms per student or per X number of students. I mean, there are bathroom number regulations for the Forum and movie theaters and any kind of venue such as that. So there has to be some health code that regulates that ratio. So that's one thing. I don't know what it is, but if we have it for every other thing on the planet here, we've got to have it for public schools, for school children. My other question is, why are the charter schools encroaching on public school space when they have their own schools? And I didn't have a more delicate way to put that. So if it sounds brash, no, I don't apologize. Just take it for what it is.
The argument that they make is that the parents of these students are also paying property taxes and the taxes that support the school, so therefore they should have access. That's the argument they would make.
But that doesn't resonate sensibly with me, because property taxes are property taxes, and no matter how you slice it, they're going to pay the property taxes. And whether it's the charter school they elect to send their children to or the public school next door, you know, I don't understand why that. Well,
I'm just giving their argument.
Yeah, yeah, I get that.
Because at the same time, a school like Granada Hills is floating tons of their own bonds also. That is separate from the school district bonds. So it's something they have access to. So they're taking two bites of the apple, in my opinion.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
I talked to several teachers who were at a higher level than grammar school about this and the co-sharing. And part of this program, especially at this time, may be that some of the charter schools want to spread out their student bodies, and rather than use their elective or so-called unused spaces, if they come into the LA Unified unused spaces, so-called, it allows them to spread for the pandemic that's upcoming. And that's a possibility as well. I've also gotten a few opinions about it, but this is not the part of the discussion, I guess, at this point in time. Has anybody considered that?
In the future, it would certainly be a possibility, but the requests that are currently on the table were made way before the pandemic was an issue. So okay. I think November was their deadline for
with
making
the board
request.
members, in case you don't know what happens, because I did find out what happens. You've got two principals with equal powers, but not, in other words, the LA Unified School can't do anything about the students from the charter school and vice versa. You've got two bell sets, you've got two different schedules, you've got two different, I mean, you figure it out, two different lunch times, two different, certainly PE times and what have you. And it supposedly, from what I've heard on those places that it's happened, it's been chaotic, to say the least, and a real detriment to the students who are currently at the school before they move in.
Yeah, there's definitely a bigger issue that needs to be addressed in this, but I think for the time being, the immediate issue is what is the effect of COVID-19, and should there be a moratorium because of that?
Well, obviously, considering the fact that I don't think there should be it at all, you know, you've got my answer on that.
Any other comments or questions? So would somebody
Joe
like
just
to
put up his hand?
I would like, yeah, I would like, oh, go ahead. Betsy has her hand up. So.
Is it me?
I was going to say Christopher and Tony both had their hands up.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Thanks for letting, because watching all this is a little chaotic. So thanks for letting me know. So yeah, who is next?
Well, Joe, I was going to make a motion. So go ahead with Joe if he has something else.
Okay, go ahead, Joe.
Yeah, I think the big thing for me is no school until such time as a vaccine has been developed.
Okay. So who is, anybody else have any comments before Tony made a motion?
Okay. Well, I would like to move that this committee recommend that the council approve of the motion to put a moratorium on for the whatever time period we are still within this crisis.
Tony, does that look about right?
Yeah.
May I ask a question? You have a moratorium on new Prop 39 co-locations.
Yes.
Are there some that have been in existence for quite some time?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
No problem. Does that look right, Tony?
Yeah, it looks right to me. Yeah.
Okay. Does somebody want to second that?
I'll second it. Chris Meredith, second.
Okay. And for the people on the phone, I'll read it. It says the Education Committee recommends that the governing board pass a motion supporting the call for a moratorium on new Prop 39 co-locations or expansions until the COVID-19 crisis has passed. And anybody have any other comment? Oh wait, who's raising their hand? Hold on one second. I'm gonna unshare this so I can see who's raising their hands.
I have a question, but that wasn't me.
Yep.
Okay.
Initially.
It was just me. I was
no, somebody
somebody
actually raised their hand on Zoom. Joe, can you see? Who?
It's showing Randy and Linda both have their hands up.
Okay, Randy.
Yeah, I was just going to answer some questions that you already answered about special education, about bathrooms, about the reasons for the charter schools, but it looks like all the questions were already answered. You're very, very knowledgeable. So, and thank you for passing your resolution.
Well, we haven't
So that's
passed it yet,
Thank
but.
you. Oh, okay. Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
And Linda?
Yes, I also wanted to thank you for making the resolution, and I know you haven't passed it yet, but we really appreciate the support that we're getting from you. And afterwards, could you let me know how to get in touch with the Reseda Council, because we'd like to get them to support us also.
Oh, okay. I will look that up.
Okay.
But let's take this vote unless, is there any discussion?
One last question.
Yes.
It says, and I know I'm picky, but it says until the COVID-19 crisis has passed, which we all know what that means. I mean, we don't know when that's going to happen. However, if someone arbitrarily makes the determination that that crisis is passed, does this moratorium, does this motion mean they can just simply jump right in, or do we need a different kind of statement at the end? Something about, and further discussion has approved removal of the moratorium. Am I making sense there?
Yes.
Yeah, I think if this had like a binding reason, that would definitely be the case. But because we're just kind of expressing the opinion, I think this is fine. But Tony?
Yeah, I think we're kind of also limited to the dialogue that's actually in the moratorium request that's being made, and that is dealing with health issues. And so I think if we wanted to talk about it as a broader issue, that's a different discussion.
Okay. Thank you.
It's something we can definitely put on a future agenda. So any other comment? Okay, just to make sure, I'm just going to take a roll call vote because it'd be easier. So Raphael?
Aye.
Anthony?
Aye.
Joe?
Aye.
Betsy?
Aye.
Christopher?
Aye.
Jane?
Aye.
And I vote aye, so it's unanimous. I'll send that over to Glenn to have it added to the agenda for next week's meeting.